Welcome to Hollywood Graveyard, where we set out to remember and celebrate the lives of those who lived to entertain us by visiting their final resting places. Today we head south to Orange County to find such stars as Eddie Cochran, Bradley Nowell, the Knott Family, The Rev, and many more. Join us, won't you? Orange County, home of oranges, Disneyland, and of course, the OC. With Orange County now in the orange tier, and parks like Disneyland and Knott's Berry Farm reopening, it felt like a good time to turn the compass south and head to the OC. On that note, enjoy this rare shot of the Disneyland main gate completely devoid of people before it reopens April 30th. Anaheim, here in Orange County, was little more than orange orchards when Disney chose this spot for his park. It's now one of the most popular destinations for seekers of entertainment around the world. Many notable figures have called Orange County home, not only in life, but for their eternal home as well. This isn't our first foray down to the OC. A few years back, you'll recall we visited Pacific View Memorial Park, where stars like John Wayne are buried. Today we'll explore a number of other cemeteries throughout Orange County. We've got a lot of ground to cover, so we'll break up this tour into two parts. Let's begin where LA County and Orange County meet at Forest Lawn Cypress, sister cemetery to the many Forest Lawn locations around LA and Southern California at large. This is also where you'll find my dream car, parked out in front of the flower shop. Passing through the main gate, we reach Abiding Faith section on the left. Heading toward the fence, passing the statue on the right, we find a legend of rock and roll, Eddie Cochran. He was a popular guitarist, singer, and songwriter in the 50s, a pioneer of the rockabilly sound. He was the epitome of the 1950s rocker, sharply dressed but with a rebellious attitude that struck a chord with teenage frustration of the era. He shot to fame when he appeared in the 1956 Jane Mansfield film, The Girl Can't Help It, performing his song 20 Flight Rock.
Up on the 12th, I'm ready to drag a 15th before I'm starting to sag. Get to the top, I'm too tired to rock.
He'd go on to have a number of hits like Come On Everybody,
Oh, well, come on everybody, let's get together tonight.
and Summertime Blues.
But there ain't no cure for the summertime blues.
In 1957, he made another film appearance in Untamed Youth. By the late 50s, Cochran had become one of the biggest influences and voices of rock and roll. In 1959, three of his close friends, Buddy Holly, Ritchie Valens, and Big Bopper, were killed in a plane crash. Cochran was shaken by their deaths and developed a morbid premonition that he too would die young. He grew anxious to give up life on the road and focus on making music in the studio to avoid a similar fate. But his premonition would prove prophetic. In 1960, Cochran was on tour in England. While riding in a taxi late on April 16th, the driver lost control and crashed into a lamp post. Eddie was thrown from the vehicle and died from his injuries. He was just 21. Other passengers in the car included fellow rocker Gene Vincent and his fiancée Sharon Sheely, both of whom survived. Eddie Cochran was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1987, and his musical legacy endures to this day. Adjacent to Eddie, we find a cenotaph to his fiancée, Sharon Sheely. She was a songwriter who wrote many songs for popular artists of the day, including not only Eddie Cochran, but also Glenn Campbell, Ricky Nelson, Belinda Lee, and more. She wrote Ricky Nelson's first #1 hit, Poor Little Fool.
Poor little fool, oh yeah, I was a fool.
And the Eddie Cochran song, Something Else, alluded to right here on her mark.
She's your fine looking, man. She's something else.
She died in 2002 at the age of 62. This is a cenotaph, meaning it's a memorial marker, and she's not actually buried here. Let's proceed west toward the churchyard. Just off Denny Street is the grave of Ken Maynard. In the 20s to the 40s, he was considered one of Hollywood's biggest Western stars. He began appearing in films during the silent era, and his rugged good looks and skills as a horseman and stuntman made him a rising cowboy star in the 30s, taking up the mantle from silent film cowboys like Tom Mix and William S. Hart. He starred in some 100 films of the era, like The Lightning Legion and Avenging Waters. But he could be hot-headed as a star, and frequent clashes with cast and crew led to a decline in his career. And by the mid-40s he was done making pictures, turning to state fairs and rodeos. He returned to the screen in the 70s to make Bigfoot and The Marshal of Windy Hollow, the latter of which has never been released to the public. He died from stomach cancer at age 77. Here in the shadow of the Church of Our Fathers rests a young boy whose story marks one of the great tragedies to occur on a film set. Micah Din Lee was from Vietnam, his family settling in Los Angeles. 7-year-old Micah was hired for a small role in the 1983 film Twilight Zone, the movie. Micah and another child, Renee Chen, were hired illegally, paid under the table to circumvent child labor laws. In the early morning hours of July 23, 1982, they were filming a scene reenacting the Vietnam War. In this scene, actor Vic Mara was carrying the 2 children across a river. Flying above them was a helicopter. 2 large special effect pyrotechnic explosions were detonated too close to the hovering helicopter, causing it to lose control and crash down on Vic and the 2 children. All 3 were killed instantly. Their deaths led to high-profile and decade-long civil and criminal action against the filmmakers. But in the end, no one was ever found criminally liable for the accident. It did, however, lead to markedly improved safety regulations on set, particularly when children are involved. In response to the accident, Steven Spielberg said, "No movie is worth dying for. I think people are standing up much more now than ever before to producers and directors who ask too much. If something isn't safe, it's the right and responsibility of every actor or crew member to yell, 'Cut!'" The westernmost section of Forest Lawn Cypress is called Fond Remembrance. Here we find a famous aviatrix, an inspiration to women everywhere, Joan Merriam Smith. As noted right here on her marker, she was the first woman to fly solo around the world at the equator, the longest solo flight undertaken at that time. The year was 1964. She was also the first woman to fly a twin-engine aircraft around the world. Tragically, Joan died in 1965 when the aircraft she was piloting out of Long Beach crashed into the San Gabriel Mountains. She was 28. If you've watched our videos before, you'll know that Forest Lawn is renowned for featuring some magnificent works of art in their memorial parks. Mosaics, statues, paintings, etc. Let's admire some of those found here. They even have a bronze replica of Michelangelo's David. Hopefully this one is a bit more steady on his feet than his marble cousin in Glendale. This is the Ascension Mausoleum. You'll be curious to know that this sarcophagus here was the original resting place of singer Karen Carpenter. She rested here from 1983 until 2003 when she was moved to Valley Oaks in Westlake Village with her family. The section south of the Ascension Mausoleum is Eternal Peace. Here rests H.B. Halicki. He was a filmmaker and stunt driver, known for writing, directing, producing, and starring in the 1974 film Gone in 60 Seconds.
You owe it to your car to see Gone in 60 Seconds. It's grand theft entertainment. Gone in 60 Seconds.
The film is known for being done mostly guerrilla style and having damaged or destroyed some 127 cars in the production of the film. The popularity of Gone in 60 Seconds led to a remake in 2000 starring Nicolas Cage and Angelina Jolie. In 1989, Halicki began production on a sequel, Gone in 60 Seconds 2. In another tragic incident on a film set, Halicki was preparing for a dramatic stunt sequence when a cable holding up a water tower snapped, knocking over a telephone pole which toppled and killed Halicki. He was 48. Crossing the street east is Garden of Protection. Close to the wall is Abe King Kong Kashi. He was born in Syria and began his career in the 30s as a professional wrestler as King Kong Kashi. In the 40s, he was introduced into the movies, having small roles in films like Tarzan and the Leopard Woman and That Nasty Nuisance. He died from heart failure at the age of 61. Heading back toward the sidewalk, we find Harold Bouncy Wirtz. He had a brief but memorable acting career in the 30s as one of the Little Rascals, known as Bouncy. he can be seen in 3 Our Gang shorts: Choo Choo, The Pooch, and Hook and Ladder. He retired from acting after this, later joining the Marines during the war and later entering the private sector. He lived to be 72. If you watched our viewers special, you'll recall that here in this section is the grave of Glenn Quinn. Since that time, this beautiful new marker has been placed. Glenn was an Irish actor, active mainly in the 90s and early 2000s. He's known for playing Mark Healy on Roseanne, and for his portrayal of Doyle, a half-demon on the series Angel, which was a spin-off of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Glenn struggled with substance abuse, dying from a heroin overdose at age 32. North in the Garden of Protection, off Cypress Drive, we find Richard Street. He was a soul and R&B singer, known as one of the vocalists of the popular Motown group The Temptations, from 1971 to 1993. Several of the group's hits featured Street on lead vocals, like Superstar, and Papa Was a Rolling Stone.
Papa was a rolling stone. Wherever he laid his hat was his home.
After The Temptations, he toured and performed as a solo artist. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with The Temptations in 1989. Richard died from a pulmonary embolism at the age of 70. Crossing to the eastern end of the Garden of Protection, behind the Statue of David, near the wall, is Sandy West. She was a musician, best known as a founding member of the all-girl 70s rock band, The Runaways. Sandy played drums and sang in the band. Among their popular songs was Cherry Bomb,
Hello, Daddy. Hello, Mom. I'm your Cherry Bomb.
and Hollywood.
Hollywood, it feels so good. Hollywood, it feels so good.
They achieved moderate popularity here in the States, but were a sensation overseas, particularly in Japan. The Runaways disbanded in 1979. After the Runaways, she continued to perform until a cancer diagnosis in 2005. The disease took her life a year later at the age of 47. She was portrayed by Stella Maeve in the 2010 film The Runaways. Let's leave the Garden of Protection for the Dawn section to the north. Here in the shade of a tree is Tanya Cruz. She was a Choctaw American model from Oklahoma, remembered for being Playboy's Playmate of the Month in March 1961. Tanya was just 25 when she died in an automobile accident. East is Everlasting Hope, off of Guardian Drive. Here rests Angel Flores. Young Angel loved to sing and dance, and when Disney relaunched the Mickey Mouse Club in 1977 as the new Mickey Mouse Club, Angel's dream of performing came true when he was chosen as one of the 12 new Mouseketeers. As the demographic of the United States was changing, Disney wanted to reflect this in the Mouseketeers, representing different ethnic groups. Angel was half Mexican-American, half Apache, and was known for his comedic flair. He was just 31 when he died from complications of AIDS. Farther east in this section, not far from the canal, is the grave of musician Chuck Rio. He was a composer and saxophone player, best known for writing and performing the hit song Tequila with the Champs. It was Chuck Rio on sax and who spoke the one word in the song.
Tequila.
The song won a Grammy in 1959 and has been featured in countless TV and film productions like Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Chuck Rio, whose real name was Danny Flores, suffered from Parkinson's later in life and died from complications of pneumonia at age 77. South, just across the street from the New Heritage Mausoleum, we find Jack Sheldon. The legendary jazz trumpeter, singer, and actor is remembered as Merv Griffin's sidekick on The Merv Griffin Show in the 70s. And younger audiences will recognize him as the voice of Schoolhouse Rock, including the iconic I'm Just a Bill.
I'm just a bill, yes, I'm only a bill, and I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill.
Jack even starred in his own sitcom in 1966, Run Buddy Run. And throughout his career, he continued to play music, releasing dozens of jazz albums. Jack Sheldon lived to be 88. For our last stop here at Forest Lawn Cypress, let's cross the street south to Sheltering Trees section. Just past one of these sheltering trees, we find the grave of downtown Ollie Brown. He was a Major League Baseball player who played pitcher and outfield for the Giants, Padres, Athletics, Brewers, Astros, and Phillies. He was named MVP while playing for the Giants. Ollie was known for his throwing accuracy from deep in the outfield, and after hitting 40 home runs in a season, was given the moniker Downtown Ollie Brown. He retired in 1977 and lived to be 71, passing away from mesothelioma in 2015. Our next stop through the graveyards of Orange County brings us to Loma Vista Memorial Park in the Fullerton area. Here's one for you thrill seekers and lovers of berry preserves, Walter and Cordelia Knott. They were farmers here in Orange County who popularized the boysenberry, a cross between a blackberry, loganberry, and raspberry. They sold berries and preserves from a roadside stand in Buena Park, and soon grew into a restaurant where Cordelia served her famous chicken and pies. So popular was the restaurant that long lines would form. To keep customers entertained while they waited, Knott built a ghost town. The beginnings of the modern theme park, years before Disneyland would open. Knott's would evolve into a summer fair with rides, and over the decades into the modern amusement park we know today, one of the most popular in the country. Cordelia lived to be 84 and Walter 91. Also here at Loma Vista is author C.S. Forester. He was an English novelist known for his tales of naval warfare, particularly his 10-book Horatio Hornblower series, which depicts a Royal Naval officer during the Napoleonic Wars. His other works include The African Queen, which was made into a popular film starring Humphrey Bogart and Katharine Hepburn, and The Good Shepherd, which was adapted as Greyhound by Tom Hanks. Forster lived to be 66. Let's move on now to the Westminster area and Westminster Memorial Park. It was founded as Central Memorial Park in 1924 and later renamed to Westminster. Heading in from the main entrance, we take a left to find the Mausoleum of Eternal Light. In the north end, above eye level, is the niche of actress and model Chillie Williams, whose real name was Marion. She was known as the Polka Dot Girl, a popular pinup among World War II servicemen. She then landed a movie contract and began appearing in small roles in films like Having a Wonderful Crime, Captive Women, and Raw Deal. She retired from acting in 1952 and lived to be 81. Back out to the grounds, let's head to the Remembrance section. Here lies Stafford Rep. You Batman fans will remember Stafford Rep for his role as Police Chief O'Hara in the 60s Batman series and 1966 movie. He would appear on many of the other great TV shows of the era, like Gunsmoke and Perry Mason. His films include I Want to Live and The Brothers Karamazov. Shortly before his death, he filmed several scenes for the unfinished Orson Welles film, The Other Side of the Wind, which wasn't released until 2018. Rep died from a heart attack at age 56. North of here on the left is Block 19A. Just in from the road a short ways is Loyal Griggs. He was a cinematographer and special effects photographer, one of the most innovative in the 30s through the 60s. Early in his career, he helped create the spectacular earthquake sequence in 1936's San Francisco. He would go on to film some of the great films of the era, including White Christmas, The Ten Commandments, and Shane, which won him an Oscar for Best Cinematography. He also won an honorary Academy Award for Spawn of the North. Griggs lived to be 71. Let's head farther north, toward the middle of this lawn. Here lies Neil Fredericks, another noted cinematographer. He's perhaps best remembered for filming The Blair Witch Project, released in 1999. The groundbreaking found footage-style horror documentary became immensely popular and would grow to become one of the most successful independent films of all time.
I'm so scared.
Other of his films include Dreamers and Abominable. Tragically, in 2004, marking our third incident of death while filmmaking in this one video, Neil died during the production of the film Crossbones while shooting aerial footage. The small aircraft he was in crashed into the sea when an engine failed. Others on the plane were able to escape, but Neil had tied himself into the airplane to operate the camera and was unable to escape before it submerged. He was just 35. It's a hot one today. Let's go cool off in Westminster's fountain. On hot summer strolls through California graveyards, I wish all cemeteries had one of these. For our last stop here at Westminster, we head northeast to Ivy Section. Look for the area on the north side of the road where people have left messages right on the curb. These messages are for Sublime frontman Bradley Nowell. Sublime was a ska punk band from the Long Beach area, which formed in 1988. Bradley was vocalist, guitar player, and songwriter for the band. Their 1996 self-titled album generated a number of hits, many of which still get airtime today, like What I Got,
Is what I got. I said, remember that.
Santeria,
I don't practice Santeria. I ain't got no crystal ball.
and Wrong Way.
Straight to this very day was the wrong way.
The album sold over 5 million copies and remains one of the greatest of 90s alternative rock. But Nowell wouldn't live to see the album's success. He often struggled with heroin addiction. In May of '96, Bradley Nowell died from a heroin overdose at the age of 28 in a San Francisco hotel while on tour. He was found by his bandmate. Nowell's dog, Lou Dog, sat whimpering close to him. Sublime's self-titled album was released 2 months later, when the band had already dissolved. The fact that the album found such success without the band touring to promote it made it all the more remarkable. Bradley was cremated, his ashes scattered over his favorite surfing spot outside Surfside. This marker was later placed here in his memory for people to visit. The last cemetery we'll hit for this first half of our OC tour is not far south of Westminster, in the Huntington Beach area. Good Shepherd is a Catholic cemetery. Originally named Roselawn, the cemetery was purchased by the Los Angeles Archdiocese in 1952, and then the Diocese of Orange in 1967. We begin here to the west in Section D. Not far from the large Bible monument is the grave of Robert Burks. He was another of the great cinematographers of the mid-20th century. He was the favorite cinematographer of legendary filmmaker Alfred Hitchcock. It was Robert Burks who would capture on film Hitchcock classics like Vertigo, To Catch a Thief, Strangers on a Train, The Birds, and Rear Window. He was nominated for 4 Oscars, winning for To Catch a Thief. Burks was gearing up to shoot Hitchcock's Topaz when tragedy struck. He and his wife were killed in a house fire in 1968, believed to have been caused by him falling asleep with a cigarette in bed. He was just 58. Finally, we circle back around to Section F. This is the final resting place of Jimmy Sullivan, known as the Rev, short for the Reverend Tholomew Plague. He was a drummer, best remembered as the founding member of the heavy metal band Avenged Sevenfold. The band formed in Huntington Beach in 1999 and rose to prominence playing gigs like Ozfest and the Vans Warped Tour. Their hit single Bat Country reached number 2 on the mainstream rock chart. The band had just begun to work on their 5th studio album, Nightmare, in late 2009, when the Rev died suddenly from an accidental drug overdose. He was 28. The band was devastated, but completed the album with the help of drummer Mike Portnoy, and dedicated Nightmare to Sullivan. The tombstone on the album features the word forever, with Rev being emphasized, in honor of the Rev. The single Welcome to the Family was co-written by Sullivan, and the song Fiction was written by Sullivan 3 days before his death. So Far Away, another single from the album, was released as a tribute to their lost bandmate.
So far away.
Rev Sullivan jumped into life and never touched bottom. And that concludes our tour. What are some of your favorite memories of the stars we visited today? Share them in the comments below, and be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more famous grave tours. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one. Earlier, we referred back to our tour of Pacific View Memorial Park here in Orange County. If you've followed recent events, you'll know that legendary basketball player Kobe Bryant was reportedly laid to rest here. However, the family has chosen to keep the location private for now, to avoid it turning into a shrine, and the cemetery does not reveal the location either. So until that time, when his location is revealed and we can come back to visit him, we will continue to send our love and remembrances of Kobe from afar.